I think we could talk about the primary talent pool, and I would have to tell you that I think the primary talent pool is one of the most important components of gifted education in Kentucky, and at the same time, probably one of those that is least implemented. And if that's not true of your district, congratulations. I'm pleased that that is the case. And B. Joyce is at the Center for Gifted Studies. What's going on with the primary talent pool, B?
Thank you, Julia, and welcome everyone. It's nice to be with you guys today. I wish we were here in person where we could see you, but I'm still happy to be with you regardless. I'm here today in place of Dr. Mary Evans. So what I'm going to share with you is her baby. It's a primary talent pool toolkit that was created for people to use at their school and throughout Kentucky. But I do want to say, just having recently moved from the state, well, I guess I can't say recently anymore. I've been here a few years. But when you look at the primary talent pool that Kentucky has, it's unique when we've talked to people from other states, and it's a huge advantage that we have here to be able to have that talent development model where we're reaching out to students beyond those who would fit in a very strict gifted identification label, so that we can be encouraging kids to think creatively and critically and to have that chance to develop skills that they might not develop in their homes. It kind of gives you a chance to level that playing field and give those kids some experiences, especially with creative and critical thinking, that they might not get just from their house. So let me go to our PowerPoint so that you can see. I'm going to go to my desktop. So hopefully you're going to see this soon. And this was again created by Mary. So I will do my level best to share all the good parts. But we have created here at the center a primary talent pool toolkit. And that is designed obviously for our GT teachers and coordinators to use as a resource. But I think it's really important, like Julia said, a lot of people don't really understand what the primary talent pool is about and maybe don't value that as much as we wish they would. So it's a great thing to share with your administrators or to give you tips on how to talk with your administrators about the primary talent pool. It's great for your GT teams. As we know from the state regulations, every school should have a GT placement team. This helps the placement team understand maybe what children have been exposed to and how they can look at the evidence that's supporting an eligibility request. And it's also for parents. A lot of times, and I know this would be a challenge for me when you have students, especially that transition piece, when you get to fourth grade and they have been part of the primary talent pool and suddenly they're no longer gifted. And that's confusing for parents. So there's some elements in here, and I will show you where to find all of this, but there's a specific PowerPoint presentation already done for you to share with parents so that they can understand the difference between a child who's been identified for primary or selected for primary talent pool versus identified for gifted. And the mistake I just made is one you want to be careful about too. We don't identify for the primary talent pool. We select and then identified for gifted. And that kind of makes a little bit of a distinction that really is lost on a lot of parents. But hopefully the resources here will help you have a chance to have that conversation. I know where I worked in Florida, some of our elementary schools had that talent development model and then some didn't. And so it was really confusing to parents when they would change from one school to another and suddenly their child didn't receive the same level of services they had been receiving before. That was confusing and upsetting in a lot of ways, understandably. So let's see if suddenly I'm tapped out. So we have 5 different sections on our talent pool toolkit. There's one about student selection, student services, teacher preparation, information for parents, and resources. So student selection, you'll see all these different sections. Creating a primary talent pool, so that's going to take you from the beginning. The characteristics of high potential learners. So as you're building, if you're looking at your district eligibility processes, these are some resources you could use for that as well. Work samples, that was always my thing. Like, I think I know what would be the top level or would be a unique answer or response. This gives you some examples to look at. referral forms. So we've even got down to the basics of those and some response lessons. And we'll look at that again in a minute, because those are great for your gen ed teachers. It's already done for them. It's a lesson ready to go that helps them get some evidence to identify these kids and to provide those opportunities for them to practice their skills. For student service, there's an awesome service delivery options list, and that these are open resources for you to use, but we also would love your input. So it's really creative. I've talked to some different people across the state, how they, especially for visual and performing arts, how they're identifying, how they're providing services. So these service delivery options list, it's a chart that is live. So we are happy to add to it, and you'll see places where you can put in your input. A talent development plan. Not everybody does this, but just like a GSSP for your identified gifted students, this is a very basic, easy to implement, I hope, form that you could use for your students that have been pulled for the primary talent pool. It's just kind of a way for everybody to keep in mind, here's why we think the student is here, and here's where we can offer some services and some opportunities for them to continue to grow. And again, there's a resources page there too. Teacher preparation. This is where you can hear the truth from Dr. Mary Evans herself. We have a great welcoming video where she talks about the primary talent pool. It's a great video to share with your administrators who might not be on board yet, talking about the benefits for not only the students, but also your staff, right? Our whole goal is to be talent scouts. I think it was Dr. Del Siegley from the University of Connecticut, and he always worded it, be a talent scout, not a deficit detective. And I will tell you, I had my deficit detective days quite a bit sometimes, depending on the time of year, really. But to be more of that talent scout. So even those kids that are doing kind of naughty things, there's a lot of skill, right? There's some leadership going on, maybe not in the right direction, but there's a lot of things going on that if we're looking from a positive framework and that talent scout framework, and that's what the PTP is about. So there's professional learning presentations also on this teacher preparation site. There's some to share with students. There's some articles for reference for you and to share with parents or administrators, and a PTP checklist to kind of do a, this is great if you are new into a position or you've got your excitement up to like revamp or look at your processes, is a checklist of, do we have a healthy PTP? And that's great for your administration to share too. After you've had a chance to like get everything beefed up, then you might want to share that with them. Information for parents. There's a great presentation for you to use that's already set up to share with the parents. And then if you're not aware of this, there's a link to some tip sheets from NAGC. These are not just for young primary talent pool age kids, but it touches on all kinds of issues or positives. If we're looking for the positives, all kinds of things that parents might be dealing with. They're fantastic to share, especially when somebody is first identified into a program. I am fortunate to be the parent of 3 very different gifted students. And as soon as I figured one out, the next one came and I was back to square one. But it is helpful to kind of know, oh, what I'm seeing at home, it's not wrong and it's not something that needs to be corrected, right? It's who they are. And here's somebody else has identified this and I'm not doing this alone. And I think when you're a parent, sometimes you're struggling with having a gifted child and you want to know what to do to make it right. And instead we just need to know to appreciate the kids that we have, right? So other resources, websites, books, articles, and videos. We're going to do a tour in just a minute. One of the websites has been around since the beginning of time and it looks like it, but it still has some really relevant things that you can share with parents if they can navigate it. So I'm going to go through, and as you see on the note there, it's a work in progress. We do appreciate your feedback. Whoops. So if there is, in addition to sharing with us your maybe unique ways for service delivery models, if you're like, you know what, I really would have loved to have, I would have loved to have XYZ, you know, a one pager for administration or whatever, let us know and we will try to create that for you. So I'm going to hopefully share my screen. Tyler, is that visible for everybody?
Yes.
Okay. So we obviously have a little bit at the beginning on the primary talent pool. If you need some reinforcement in trying to get yours started or revamped, there are the regulations linked right there. It is in our state regulations. So the expectation is that a healthy, robust primary talent pool is in place at your school.
B, could you zoom a little bit on the screen?
Well, let's see. Is that helping?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Better, you guys? Okay, thanks. There's a little brochure linked right here that you can print out for sharing with people. And then these are our 5 different areas. Obviously, they're linked here at the bottom, and then you can use the navigation bar at the top, whichever is more convenient. And I'm just going to walk through a couple things, like a few of my favorite things on these different topics, but obviously give a holler if you have a question. It's hard for me to see right now, so Tyler, just ask and I'll give a best answer. So developing your primary talent pool, you can see a sample plan, a flow chart, obviously. This is helpful for your high potential learners, especially for your gen ed teachers, because we want everybody in the building to be looking, especially like your specialist. I always make sure to include my specialist. What is it? And to let them know, I love this one where it's the characteristics, and some is like great and some is not so great. And I had some gatekeepers at my elementary school who would use the not so great behaviors as reasons why this child should not get the privilege of being in the gifted class. I think they thought we just played all day. We just had fun at school. So it maybe looked like that. But I do like this to share with gen ed teachers to say, look at it. And I know it's interrupting your class, or maybe it's not the greatest thing, but it is really helpful for us to see those behaviors that could be not so great as the potential that what they are, that the kids are bored in class. And I totally understand why with some of my teachers. Here's a form to share with parents when you're notifying. Again, for your gen ed teachers, this is one of my favorite things here that we have linked. Our response lessons, they are open-ended. They are great source for getting creative and critical thinking responses. So it gives teachers not only the lessons themselves, but like what you're looking for and some sample responses. So you can be like, oh, I get it. Everybody's going to have kind of this basic response, but this one that seems really weird, that's awesome. Weird, but awesome. So it gives you a little bit of ways to couch those lessons, but they're already done. And they're done at a really great level. So for your teachers that are still learning a little bit about gifted, that's a very helpful thing there. And then we have some other things with your GT placement committees. Here are the work samples I mentioned and the referral forms. So if you need help getting a referral form done, it's done for you. It could have been done with AI, but we used our brains and did it ourselves. So you could still do it that way. Let's see if we'll go back a couple pages. Our student services. So this is the service deliveries option chart that I was telling you about is right here. So it's giving all kinds of different ways, like acceleration options. I know that most of us here have done our gifted endorsement, so you're well aware that there's not just one form of acceleration as grade skipping, but your parents and your gen ed teachers might not be so aware. So this is helpful to look at for all the different things that you, am I making you sick looking at this? All the different ways you could serve your students. Again, here's some lists here and the resources for working with high potential learners. This is one of my favorite ones because it's got a lot of things you can do immediately in your classroom. From just talking with people around the state, I think a lot of people are familiar with PETS. If you're not, check that out, especially for your littles in your primary talent pool. It really kind of coaches them on how to think without them feeling like you're coaching them on how to think. Your school-wide enrichment model, again, I've seen this in action. In Florida, it was used at schools that had attendance problems. Often they would do a school-wide, gosh, I can't talk, sorry, school-wide enrichment model on the day of the week that they had the worst attendance, which typically was for us, what a lot of our schools was Monday. And the kids would start driving the attendance because they wanted to be there. Nobody wanted to miss school-wide enrichment day. If you're not familiar with it, you kind of take a portion of your day, which I know is hard to convince administrators, but it actually works. We have the research to show it. You take a portion of your day and you're learning, but it doesn't have to necessarily be anything that's typical in the classroom. So we had one school where the 3rd grade teacher taught flag. She was a big flag twirling person in high school and college. And she had a flag group and we had photography and we had gardening, and we had, so it's all these different topics of just high interest. And then the teachers were all mixed up. Our music teacher taught a sewing class, and like I said, the third grade teacher was out twirling flags, and it really builds that school community, right? So the kids see you as more than just the third grade teacher, right? You're an interesting person suddenly, and they have ways to connect. So it builds your school community. These kids that maybe will never show you anything in the gen ed class, because honestly, they aren't really interested in school. Suddenly you give them a chance to garden, and they're like the most amazing scientists you've ever seen, and such little entrepreneurs when they're selling herbs in the car line, right? So it is a chance to rejuvenate. I think for teachers, you get to do something you really like for a little bit at school. Not that we don't love teaching, but it gives you a chance to do a passion project. And so I think for the kids and for the schools, it's just very energizing. And for the teachers, it makes you really remember, oh, I do love this job, right? Jacob's Ladder is a fantastic high level reading comprehension program. Some of my kids didn't love it at first, and honestly, some of my teachers took a little bit to get to it, but that's because they was finally on their level, the kids, and so it took a little bit, but it was fantastic for them. William and Mary units I used a lot. It's, if you're not familiar with William and Mary units, they are high interest, they are real world problems, you can tailor them. So we had one, it's called Acid Everywhere, where the kids were they were given a problem, and they were it's kind of not Odyssey of the Mind, it's not like that, but they were in the sense of they had to solve everything, and I kind of got to step back and let them do their thing. But the premise was a tanker had overturned on the highway and was leaking an unknown fluid. You had to deal with, what are you going to do about traffic? What are you going to do about that spill? What are you going to do about the injuries to anybody on the bridge? It was all kinds of things that you would think about in a real world scenario like that. And the kids are super engaged, and it's really high level. Enrich Math, if you've ever heard me talk about math at all, it's to plug this website. It's out of Cambridge in England, and lots of really high level activities, especially if you have fast finishers. Your gen ed teachers are like, I don't know what to do with them, and they are not yet to the level where we wish they would be, where they were differentiating their instruction in the classroom, and they don't need something for fast finishers because everybody's engaged at that level. This resources on this website is something that can help them out. Hands-on equations, if you've ever done it, you love it. It's algebra. I actually had, it says grades 3 to 5. I was doing it with younger. They learn a game using pawns, like from chess, to do algebra, and they can explain their thinking, and then they can work into word problems, and it's a beautiful thing. And then like kind of cut this short because I know you can look at this on your own, but there's lots of great things here. Oh gosh, I will have to stop. The math, the problem n squared and problem m cubed are top level for your mathematicians, not only for them to be engaged in math in really different ways, but they have to write as part of their math and show their thinking and communicate. So they're building those ELA skills while they're doing math, and that's something we wish would always happen. So our teacher preparation here. Again, here's where Mary's video is. I highly encourage you to come to this right after our session. Project WRAP was a grant done here at the Center for Gifted Studies, and it's got some great resources here. And again, you can see, like, look, it's a lesson all done for you, ready to go, and really engaging for the kids and for you. So that's my favorite here. Here's your health update. Check your primary talent pool and see if you are on board with where things should be. Your information for parents, again, Mary has her PowerPoint ready to go here, telling a little bit about it. And this right here is the link to the family tip sheets from NAGC. And if you haven't been there before, there's lots of different things that you can share with parents, and also obviously with people in your building, if you think that would be helpful. And then our last one here is the resources. So this book right here, the Young Scholars Model, if you're not familiar with the Young Scholars Model, I think it goes out of Virginia. Correct me on that, Julia, if I'm wrong. But I saw them present it in NAGC, and it's one of those, oh, I get it. And you kind of want to do it because you're like, I know how this is going to work, and it's going to be so well received. So just, it's a way of looking at your whole elementary school, kind of like, not like the school-wide enrichment model, but it's a whole school kind of thing. And then I do just want to show you the websites over here. Obviously, you know, CAGE, the Center for Gifted Studies, and KDE's Gifted, and the NAGC. Hoagie's Gifted is one of the originals, and you can see when you look at it, I love this site because it still looks like 82. But it's been, or if you take a minute, because it is visually challenging, but there are some good things. You can see the Gifted 101 here for people that are new to Gifted. A lot of your parents are like, they said my kid's gifted and I don't know what that means. Some of it, I think, I'm not sure if Carolyn is still updating this regularly, but it even has like gifts for gifted kids. A lot of parents love that, and the music and books, and there'll be even movies that show gifted kids, and so that they can relate to. There's a lot here. It just takes a bit to get to it. But that is pretty much us in a nutshell, and a really long chat. But are there any questions about talent pool? Selection is meant to transfer within the state of Kentucky, correct? That's a question from Lori. And Lori, I believe so. Julia, please hop on that one. I would
Yes,
assume if you were, if you're in the talent pool in one, you would be in the talent pool in the other. In one district, you would be in another. Is that
yes.
correct? Thank you. Any other questions? And please, you guys reach out to us. There's a link on the site there where you can provide suggestions or feedback, or obviously you can email us here at the center. And that website again is gifted-studies.com/PTP.
So let me ask you a few questions about this, Bee. It's a resource that if people are not really doing much with the primary talent pool besides selecting students,
Mm,
who needs to know about this first?
just the primary talent pool in general.
Yes.
Well, first, I always would start with your administration because they have to be on board. That's just been my experience at school. And when you look at what it offers, there's really no drawback to it. It's not a lot of time. It's not going to take rewriting lesson plans. It's not going to do this. It's good for your whole school, so it's hard to see why they wouldn't. But I certainly would ask for the opportunity to address, and I know it's really hard sometimes to get in to address your whole school, or at least your younger grades that would be affected by that, so that they understand why we're doing this. We're not just adding on or interrupting their day, or there's a purpose for it. And to understand, I mean, teachers are teachers because we want to do well for children, right? And we want our children to grow and learn and to have these opportunities. And honestly, a lot of what I liked about, we did creativity lessons with our youngers for our talent development model, is to see just different strategies, right? So then it's like, oh, I could use that same strategy in my regular lesson that's planned over here. So I think for a lot of teachers, it's exposing. I always like to hear new strategies of something I can do to change up things, right? And to keep the kids engaged and interested, and me engaged and interested, to be honest.
Absolutely. And as the recommendation is to have perhaps 25% of your students involved in the primary talent pool, opens it up to provide lots of support for very promising kids who may not have had all of the experiences prior to entering school that other students have had.
And that,
So
I was gonna say, that's the piece that when I talk with my friends back in Florida, they're kind of jealous about, because we would have students, and especially in the elementary school where I was, if we did a unit theme, is the way we were an enrichment model. And let's say my unit theme was on the rainforest, I would have students who actually would go to the rainforest on vacation. And then I had students who had never been to the beach, and we lived maybe 20 minutes from a beach. So when you have those two students and you're talking about some things that either in class, of course, one's going to have different things to add to the discussion, right? Because she has been to the rainforest, she goes to museums on the weekends, she has a lot of opportunities that this other student just doesn't. But if they had had those same opportunities, I would see that same discussion. I might see that same sort of response that I wouldn't expect, right? Because just based on opportunity. So I think with the primary talent pool, you give them a chance to see how to think, and you're coaching thinking skills that they wouldn't get. But when I'm with my child in a museum, we might both make an observation, and just in the inherent going to the museum, I'm teaching them to be an observer. I'm teaching them to read for facts. I'm teaching them to question, right? Like, oh my gosh, look at this big bear. Where do you think it lives? You know, all these things that we're building in when we have opportunity that some of these students are missing out on. So I think when we can build those opportunities into the school day, which is why I love school-wide enrichment model. When you can build that into your school day, you're suddenly giving these kids this bank of knowledge to be a questioner, to be somebody that wonders, and to be somebody that says, you know what, I want to know more about that. I didn't even know that existed. I've done that as an adult. I went to a talk by my son's university and was like, well, I didn't even know that was a job, but I would have really loved it, right? And I have been on the earth for decades. So imagine for a student to have those opportunities starting kindergarten, first, second, and third grade would be amazing.
I love it. And I want all of our students across Kentucky, our young ones, to have opportunities to be in the primary talent pool and to have that primary talent pool really provide lots of opportunities. I worry that sometimes it's in name only, and that's not at all what we need for Kentucky's children to be the best they can be.
And anybody that's out there watching and you're like, I'm not comfortable saying to my admin, this is what it should be. We're happy to come out and chat about the primary talent pool and what the regulations say and what the expectations are and how to build it into your system. So we're happy to partner and come out, and you can blame us. Right? So
I like it.
there you
Any
go.
questions, Tyler?
No,
No. Well, thank you,
you're
Bea.
welcome.
And
Happy new school year, everybody.
we think this is a wonderful resource that can be useful all across the Commonwealth.